Hello and welcome to Midnight Scribe's Creative Vibes, where we speak to the best of the bronies and discover what makes them tick. I need to address a very big and very recent allegation against me by a fellow member of the My Little Pony community that I truly could not let go unnoticed. Bot117 has been saying that I, the ever lovable, ever popular Midnight Scribe, does not actually do any work. Well, I would just like to take this moment and say once and for all to all the fans and all the people who watch, he's right, I don't. And to prove the point, here is an automated dad joke I got earlier on to pad out this bit with some humour. What's more amazing than a talking dog? A spelling bee! Get it? One talks and the other knows how to spell words and... oh, never mind. To more important topics, our guest tonight is a fanfic writer. He's responsible for a variety of projects on fanfiction and Tumblr. His love for MLP is second only to his love for Scotland. We are delighted to welcome Thistle Thorn to the Creative Vibe studio. Thistle, how are you doing?
Well, that was quite an introduction of the episode. Well, I'm fine. I just... so weird way of saying it, but I just woke up. Working night shifts does that to you. But I'm actually pretty fine. I'm just glad to be here in the show, and let's see how this goes.
Oh, yes, no, definitely. Well, it's good to have you on. I'm glad to see that you're awake and well for this. I mean, because, I know for a fact that, obviously with your job, you work insane shifts at the best of times. So the fact that we've managed to get you on is a bit of a minor miracle in of itself.
Oh, yeah, I really cannot rely on having a shift available because sometimes they will call me for something and they're like, hey, we need you here because you are one of the few who actually know how to do this. So you have to come. And I'm like, okay, why not? So I cannot rely on having days off. Or maybe I have them, but maybe I don't. So I have to just say, okay, let's hope for the best today. Thursday I have off. And I'm like, let's try this.
Indeed, let's hope that they don't try and call you halfway through the interview or anything daft like that, just saying, we need you, please come over and save us.
No, hopefully they won't.
Indeed. Well, fingers and toes crossed anyways, but
Yeah.
first thing I actually want to ask you is, well, obviously right now you live in Scotland and you have a great love of Scotland, but originally I believe you were actually from Morocco, or you moved from Morocco.
Spain.
Spain, aye.
Yeah, Ceuta is as well. It's not hard to understand. Well, Ceuta is a small town, it's a small autonomous community that is basically outside of Spain, like it's on the south of Spain, like at the south of the Mediterranean, and it's right in the border of Morocco. Just as Melilla was those two cities that are like politically Spanish, but geographically they're in Africa. For the same reason that Northern Ireland is part of the UK, this part being in the island of Ireland. That's the easiest way I can explain that to people in the UK.
Oh yes, no, oh listen, like these kind of political border stuff, it goes right over my head. I did 4 years of a history and politics degree, and that's all I ever want to discover about it at the moment.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But obviously, like you came from there and you came over to Scotland, which is certainly a bold move. And I've said before that your love of Scotland is incredibly strong. We've had many chats about your love of, classical Scottish music, as you could say, and tradition and so on. What is it that actually attracted you to come over here?
To be honest, the love of Scotland comes from way behind, and I'm not sure if I should be proud of admitting this, but I think the first interaction I had with Scotland was playing Age of Empires 2, the tutorial campaign,
Oh,
where you
listen,
basically control the Scottish and you have to fight the English. So it's like, okay, this is up to a great start.
oh boy, right. If there's anyone in the comments talking about Scottish-English relations, please chill. We're fine. We like the English. They are lovely. They invented the chicken tikka masala. Frankly, I'll love them for that. Well, that's certainly one way of getting into Scotland. I mean, it's.
Oh yeah.
I'm not going to complain about anyone who wants to come to this great country. Spoiler. I actually work for the tourist board. But no, it's great to have you here, and obviously, so like you mentioned that Age of Empires 2 is kind of what got you into Scotland and so on, but I know that a lot of Scottish culture and Norse culture that kind of comes into your work. I mean, particularly, perhaps your biggest epic in terms of your writing career, which is the Is it Lovers Edda or Ida?
Ed is a Norse word, so it's Edda most likely. And yeah, I am a passionate of everything related to culture and mythology, so all kinds. So of course, when you study in primary school, well, maybe not primary school, but maybe primary, yeah, elementary, primary, high school, the first mythology you will always learn of, because it's the most famous one, is the Greek and Roman one. Sometimes you will have like passing references to others. But I also got to study on my own. I studied the Norse mythology, which is one I always found fascinating. And I also, most recently, like a few years ago, I also learned about the Celtic mythology, mostly the Irish one, related to the cycle of Ulster and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I always find it fascinating being able to study of mythologies, the legends of each region, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's an absolutely fascinating subject. I mean, no question whatsoever. But the interesting thing, I suppose, apart from your love of, researching these kind of cultural artifacts and history of nations, is the fact that you've actually put this into your writing. I mean, there's not many Milo Pony fanfic writers I can think of who draw upon Norse mythology to write their biggest story. I mean, it's pretty niche, and I love that. I remember reading that. It must have been about a year or so ago, or 2 years ago maybe, and just how much that was woven into the story and how it actually fed in. So it's absolutely fantastic. So how did you actually come up with that story and combine the two elements together?
Well, I usually go for stuff that as a writer, I usually go for things that I am comfortable with and that I know of, which is a must. If any writer knows that, you have to write what you know about. And I actually like loved it with a passion. I was in a really big Norse mood back in the day, and I gave it a go. And I had this character called Rakar, which was the skald, which is basically a bard, so to speak. Let's put it like that. And he travels the world trying to explore the map and updates the lands of. It's been so long. I almost forgot the name of the frozen north. Let's just call it like that. I don't remember the name of the Scandinavia. Yeah, of course, Scandinavia. Of course, they have to have a pony pun there. Of course, because that's I think you're contractually obligated to make a pony-related pun of whatever country any character is. I think there is a sort of mythology. There is not that much of the mythos. I think, like I know that I remember vaguely that Drakkar is a very religious person, a very superstitious. There are some parts where they go and offer prayers to the gods from the Norse mythology. But the most frustrating part for me was having to, because I am crazy like that, I decided to um, study and learn the old Nordic language and have characters have conversations in that language. I remember I had to read, for one of the scenes, I had to write a poem that it was not a regular poem. It was a poem, a style of poetry from Norse mythology, and that took me 4 hours, and that was like 16 verses of like it was like 32 words or something, and because of the very specific metrics and rhymes, it took me like 4 hours to do.
it takes an immense amount of dedication to put that kind of work into it. I mean, I mean, I couldn't do that sort of thing, but you've always been able to, like, whenever we've chatted together about writing projects and whatnot, and even just personal stuff, you've always applied the same sort of drive to it. Whether it's like you said, just writing a Norse poem, or whether it's about learning new languages. Like I remember you talking recently to me about learning Gaelic as well. The Scots language.
Yes, I actually try to learn Gaelic, and I still am very, very slowly because I barely have time to sit down and work on it. But in this new project I'm working on, I'm trying to learn mostly Scottish Gaelic, but also Irish one, because of the characters involved. And it's luckily these are actually much easier to research instead of a language that died 800 years ago, like Old Norse. But this one hopefully is still much easier to find, like references and like small courses, so you can get a basic idea of how to write each language and notice the differences, which is surprising to me because sometimes the difference is very minimum, but sometimes the words are just completely different. And it's like, okay, these are definitely two languages now. Instead of like maybe sometimes a C instead of a G is used in one language or the other. And it's my brain hurts when I'm trying to work on all these, just thinking, am I actually going to have these characters like speak in Irish and Scottish when they are not alone, but when they are trying to talk to each other in front of someone just to have a bit of of a tactical advantage, like you don't know what we're saying.
Well, it's certainly an interesting idea for a concept in the story, and once again, the fact that you've actually been able to absorb even a bit of it is absolutely fantastic. I mean, listen, like, I'm Scottish, I don't know any Gaelic, I know zippity doodah. So the fact that you actually have learned even just a bit of it and have been able to apply it and plan to apply it into future projects once you get the time is absolutely amazing. I mean, that's proper dedication there and defeating procrastination.
It's something I love. I mean, I've always had a love for languages because I'm 31 at the time of this recording, and I started studying English when I was 5. So that was quite a start.
That's
I
I've just realized something. If you started learning English when you were 5, you've been learning it as long as I've been alive. That's the difference. You have had that. You've got a midnight scribe level of English.
well, I don't know if that's good or not.
I don't know. Well, write in the comments if you think I'm a good ambassador for English. But I'll tell you what, actually, speaking of defeating procrastination, actually going back to the lovers Edda as well. I mean, talk about defeating procrastination. It's 136,000 frigging words.
Oh yeah, it took about a year to be made, and it had some very weird criticisms back in the day. But the kind of criticism that you sometimes don't really have to listen to because they are really, really subjective, or it's weird because I had someone criticize the story for being like they decided to deconstruct the story to the most basic blocks and then just saying, well, this is very generic. And I like, well, if you remove everything that makes the story unique and goes for the most basic bare bone idea, then yes, it's a very it's very generic, but you have to. It's a trope, yes, of a new pony coming to Equestria because, as he just said, we never have had enough of those. And I said yes, but it's a bit more than the story starts with Fluttershy waking up at the sound of Harry the bear having a heated conversation in roars with another bear, so to speak, and she goes down and finds a pony dressed with a bear cloak roaring at Harry, and they're having a conversation, like a heated one, but they're having one. And like, I don't really know how many stories you have read about ponies just screaming and roaring at bears, but sure, let's go with that. And then we had people complaining about, hey, Mjolnir and Fluttershy shouldn't know each other because they have never talked in the show, because apparently everyone goes to cryo sleep when the show disappears, the show ends, and they have no other interaction. I'm like, okay, look, I come from a small town. Ceuta is a very small town. Inverness is a very small town as well. So you know this better than anyone. Everyone knows everyone in a small town. So there is no way I'm going to accept that just because a character doesn't talk, two characters don't interact on the show, doesn't mean they don't know each other, because that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, the criticisms you get as a writer can sometimes. I mean, there's lots of perfectly valid ones, but occasionally you get stuff like that where you just kind of go, really, really, is this what you're going for? And actually, going back to the whole the previous complaint you were talking about, the guy who kind of deconstructed the whole story down to the basic blocks, which is like I've done that before. I'm guilty of doing this as well, both to my own work and to other people's. But the thing people seem to forget, right? And I can't remember who it was that came up with this, so I'm afraid I'm gonna have to try and find my sources. But there was someone who said there's only ever 7 stories in the world. There's only 7 stories you can actually write. Everything else kind of comes off it, and they're all based on 7 different Disney films. And if you look at those 7 films and those 7 stories, that's every story ever made. Everything else just comes off it or a variation.
Well, I'll go as back and say that basically the Iliad and the Odyssey, like Homer, basically made every single story ever, and you have to go from there. Everything is inspired by them. So what can I say?
Yeah, oh, exactly. Well, the thing is, you've come up with an original concept. Like you said, there's not many Norse mythology based MLP new characters coming to the city love stories. There are not that many around, and if there is another one, send it to me. I want to see it, okay? But there are not that many around. And actually, it's actually talking about other projects you've been on as well before we get too wrapped up in this, because I know that your film fiction career that was done a wee while back, but recently, well, actually both before and after this, you had a Tumblr pony blog about D&D gaming called Dice and Dining Rooms, but recently you've actually gone and done a daily post format with a new D&D based strip.
Yes. Here's the thing. I I love writing, and it's even in the Tumblr comic shows, but it's hard to find people to actually sit down and read a whole thing. I mean, I can imagine only the struggle you had to go through to sit down through that novel that is basically the lower side. That's like almost 300 pages of fanfic. Uh, so I decided, okay, I'm going to try and see if I can work with comics. And I am not that good of an artist, but I say, okay, let's see if this helps. And yeah, I because I use the same style of Knights of the Inner Table, which is one of my favorite comics. That is basically like still figures, like still panels, recycled over and over. And what drives you is the story. I mean, the art in that comic is horrible, and I'm not going to shy away from it. But I just read the back of the first comic, and I saw what it was. Okay, I have to read this because I don't care about the art. There is something about like players just being terrible to the dungeon master because it was like a conflict between the master and the player. There was a mental fight between each other. So okay, I'm going to try and see that. And the original story was that we have this OC that was just being the dungeon master, and most of the main 6 minus Fluttershy, because I was like, these are like these six players. There is going to be very difficult to not have one of them barely say anything. So, and also I just use the excuse that because she doesn't like the idea of murdering whatever enemy we have to fight, so let's just push her away further now. It's not that I don't. It's not that I hate Fluttershy. It was just for convenience. And I actually started doing a daily thing because I wasn't writing anymore. So I decided, okay, I'm going to recover this comic and I'm going to start doing that daily update, which was very easy considering I barely had to do any drawing. And even my schedule was bad, but I tried to do updates every day. Yeah, the comic evolved in weird ways, and I think everyone that does any art or comics or writing knows that your story is going to evolve sometimes in ways you really didn't expect them to, which is why suddenly the story is the way it is right now. And I promise that I'm going to try and return to it once I refill my comic uses because I updated once a day, every day for a year, almost a year, and I was like, a lot of stuff happened, and I was really drained, and it's like I can't even try to do this anymore. So, and that and the other project I'm working on as well, which is slightly based on this one, but it's more focused on at least one of the characters only, which people seem to have loved. And and as well again, I'm mostly just in the writing phase. I have a few concept sketches of certain characters, but I'm mostly just writing and developing stuff.
Well, it's good to see that you're taking what you've learned from these preview projects and applying it to a new one, and hopefully we'll be looking forward to actually seeing what it is you actually come up with in the very near future. Make sure to keep us in the loop of what actually happens there, because no doubt we'll see it around the Discord servers and so on.
Oh, certainly.
And actually, talking a bit more actually about the pony side, we've got the usual generic questions we like to ask all our guests here in Creative Vibes, and you are no exception, Thistle. And the first question we do like to ask is, what is your favorite character from MLP?
Well, I haven't watched the previous seasons because I really haven't. And every time, the more episodes it shows, the less willing I am to binge watch the whole thing. But like, oh, I have like 2 seasons worth of episodes to watch. I don't feel like it. But if I have to say a favorite character, that's definitely going to be Discord. I have a thing for him when I met him for the first time. I love his concept, how bizarre he was compared to everything else. And I haven't watched the latest episodes where he shows up, but I still like how he's basically the embodiment of chaos. He has and going back to mythology, Norse mythology, he has been portrayed a lot as Loki because he's basically the prankster god, so to speak. Even as the good guy, even as a redeemed villain, he still just annoys everyone one way or the other. And he still shows. This is the last episode I remember where he shows up. It's the one with Tree Hugger, and I can't stand that character. But I remember how the point. That's not my opinion. Don't worry. But how he gets so angry that he opens the chaos dimension, and he's about to throw her into the chaos dimension. And I'm like, yes, do it. But no, it didn't happen. But yeah, Discord is a villain that I actually like because he has grown a bit, but he has all these ways and ancestry in the story. He has this weight in the lore, and he has to be there. I mean, I don't think there is any way to get rid of him anytime soon because he's part of the cosmic balance of the world. He's like the embodiment of everything that is chaotic. And to be honest, it's not necessarily bad in itself. He just wants to have fun in his own twisted way.
Well, it's certainly an interesting way of analysing him, and of course, there is no shortage of Discord fans out there. I certainly hope that once the next gen of MLP come around, maybe they might give Discord a spin off, because I would live for that. But talking actually about, you talked there about Discord being your favourite character. What about your favourite episodes? Is it one with him in it?
Well, that's hard to say. I barely remember most of the episodes anymore.
Well, if you can't think of one just now, you can come back to it when you think of an answer. That's absolutely fine.
Oh, I don't think I have favorite episodes are hard to come by because I think it's mostly ones that throw some world building into it, and I think there was one. Yeah, we could just go for the Discord ones. There is the first one of the two-parter because it definitely shows what the way he actually acts, and it's really interesting for me to see how he acts during that episode, the first one he appears, and how he just everyone is so confident. Okay, we can do this, which is like, no, you clearly don't. I mean, sorry, you can't. And he isolates every character, and it's Discord who sells it to me. How he's able to uh, act on anyone's like weak spots and turn them to his side. Well, to his side, basically remove their powers of the elements of harmony, so he can somehow defeat everyone and conquer Equestria. Because, as they specifically say, I think it was in the beginning, even in the premiere of the show, that Celestia doesn't have the attunement to the elements anymore, so she can't do anything. So if Discord wins, then she can't do anything about it for some reason.
Alright, so how did you actually become a fan of My Little Pony, and what made you actually join the fandom?
Well, you have a friend of mine to blame for that. Uh,
Oh yes, I
we
think.
our common friend, yeah, we know him. Uh, James Cork, by the way, he's the one. I think we can just say the name. It's
Oh
not
yeah,
going
exactly.
to
No,
be.
it's not a
Yeah,
secret. Yes, James
yeah,
Cork, artist, movie slates, first guest on Creative Vibes. Yes, no,
yeah.
he is the one responsible.
Yes, he's the one that introduced me to the show, and that's how I started when the show was around season two. So yeah, he introduced me to the show, and I said, okay, I'll give it a go. And I said, okay, this is actually pretty entertaining. And I never share his love for Rarity. I just couldn't stand her in the first season.
Starting a flame war there. Do you think Rarity is a good or bad character? Let us know below, and we'll
No,
answer later on.
well, I mean, I was never the way she was in. She has grown a lot as a character, and that's fine. And I can bear her now. But in the first season, I just couldn't stand her.
That's fair enough. She's not for everyone. That's entirely understandable. But actually, let's talk a little bit about the fandom as well. Because one thing would you like to ask is, what's your opinion and thoughts on the My Little Pony fandom?
Well, I cannot really say much, but I guess what I say about the fandom is like it affects every fandom. Like you have people that will create something and it's great, but then you have the crazy creations, and you really cannot say which ones are doing it on purpose, as in they genuinely like this kind of crazy stuff. And when you poke fun at them, like I used to be, like I'm part of a riffing group, like some sort of MST 3000, something like that.
Oh yeah.
And some people genuinely believe on what they do, on this crazy stuff that they do, and they get genuinely angry about that. And then you have the ones that write crazy stuff, and they're just doing crazy stuff for the sake of writing crazy stuff, and they don't care. But when it comes to the show, it's just like most of the fan. I just say like every fan that you have the doomsday sayers. Like every new episode where something new happens is the end of the show, and it's like I don't know how many times we'll have to go through this. The show is like in the what eighth season already, and I know we know it's coming to an end anytime soon. It's hopefully it won't be as the Simpsons, because you can only make so many seasons about it. And with the announcement of the new one, yeah, I think they said like the ninth season was going to be the last one or something like that.
Yeah, I think I heard some talk about that. I mean, it still seems to be a little bit up in the air as of the moment, but who knows what will happen. But yeah, they've got plans for a new generation coming along, and like you said, there's always been this talk of all this, the fandom's dying or the show's dying, like from as far back as I think season 3. So it's
Oh yeah, we all remember the reason why they said the show was going to die.
Yes, indeed. We won't go into it because we don't want to cause another another
Oh
stir in the
god, yeah.
comments.
It's the most
But
controversial episode ever here.
oh
So
yeah, no, like
sorry beforehand.
Amy Larson. No, I can't bring any hate against the guy. I love him actually. Honestly, he's a lovely dude. But I tell you what, we will. I think we're gonna have to wrap up the episode here. Actually, we're running out of time.
Yeah, that's I just love talking, so that's a problem. We have a restricted time schedule here.
I know. Listen, like someone who likes to talk makes my life easier, and I cannot complain about that whatsoever. And we like a chatty guest here in Creative Vibes, and it has been awesome having you on, Thistle. It has been a lot of fun.
Oh, it's been great being here as well, and pretty fun too.
Oh, that's good. Well, I'm glad you've enjoyed yourself as well. And well, my last question to you is, where can we send our followers to see your stuff? Where are you on the web?
Okay, my original comic series. You already have my film fiction account where you can. I'm on film fiction as Simon O'Sullivan, which is my pen name for mostly writing everything. Now in Tumblr, I have my Dice and Dining Rooms comic, as you have said.
Oh, fantastic. Well, we'll put them and any other links we happen to get in the meantime in the description below. So if you want to see Thistle Thorn's work, that's the place to go. My thanks to Thistle Thorn for being on the show. My thanks to you guys for watching. And if you want to get in contact with us, have you got constructive criticism? Have you got praise? Are you a creator in a fandom who would like to get in contact with us? Perhaps you've got some great stuff you want people to know about and you'd like to be interviewed. Send it our way. We'll have a look. We'll let you know if we can have you on the show. Because who knows, there will be a season 5 at some point next year. So hey, we'll be looking for guests. And of course, there's lots of ways to get in contact with us. You've got here on YouTube, you've got our Facebook, our Twitter, we have a Tumblr, although who's running that right now, I have no idea. We've got that, and we have our email address, which is highlandbronies@hotmail.com. That's highlandbronies@hotmail.com. Get in contact with us. We await all your messages. We love them all. But we will wrap up the show here for tonight. Thank you all for watching this episode of Creative Vibes, and the final word from Midnight Scribe is, as always, please subscribe.